Imagine a single product, responsible for nearly a fifth of a global corporation's profits, suddenly becoming synonymous with death. In 1982, Tylenol, America's most trusted pain reliever, found itself at the epicenter of a chilling, unsolved poisoning spree. 7 lives were tragically cut short, not by illness, but by cyanide-laced capsules found in bottles on store shelves. The immediate fallout was catastrophic. A nationwide panic, a product recall costing over $100 million, and predictions of Tylenol's complete market extinction. How does a brand, facing an existential crisis of this magnitude, not only survive but reclaim its dominance? This isn't just a story about a crime. It's a masterclass in crisis management, regulatory change, and the desperate fight for corporate survival. On September 29, 1982, a seemingly ordinary over-the-counter pain reliever transformed into a deadly weapon in the Chicago area. 3 individuals died within hours of taking cyanide-laced extra-strength Tylenol. By October 1st, the crisis had escalated, claiming a total of 7 lives in what became a chilling, unsolved mystery. Before this unprecedented event, Tylenol wasn't just another product. It was America's most successful over-the-counter medication, with over 100 million users and a dominant 37% market share in painkillers. It was a billion-dollar asset, responsible for nearly 20% of Johnson and Johnson's corporate profits in the first 3 quarters of 1982 alone. But in just a few terrifying days, this corporate giant faced an existential threat. Its flagship product, once a symbol of trust, became synonymous with terror. The subsequent criminal investigation, led by the FDA and local law enforcement, pursued multiple theories, from a meticulous saboteur to a disgruntled employee, yet the perpetrator was never definitively identified. This case, though unsolved, did something remarkable. It didn't just bring about a corporate crisis. It fundamentally reshaped the way we interact with every product we purchase, from food to medication. This is the story of how Tylenol and its parent company Johnson & Johnson navigated a billion-dollar hostage crisis, and in doing so, forged a new standard for consumer safety that continues to protect us today. Before this unprecedented event, Tylenol wasn't just another product. It was a phenomenon. Manufactured by Johnson & Johnson's McNeil Consumer Products Company, it had become America's undisputed painkiller, boasting over 100 million users nationwide. Its market dominance was clear, capturing a staggering 37% share of the entire pain reliever category. This wasn't merely a popular brand. It was a financial titan for Johnson & Johnson, contributing 19% of the company's corporate profits in the first 3 quarters of 1982 alone. Its growth trajectory was equally impressive, accounting for 13% of J&J's year-to-year sales growth, and a remarkable 33% of profit growth. Tylenol was a staple in medicine cabinets, an almost untouchable success story in the consumer market. It was, for all intents and purposes, a symbol of trust and reliability, until the unthinkable attack of cyanide in the capsules. This market dominance, however, was shattered on September 29, 1982. The nightmare began when 12-year-old Mary Kellerman of Elk Grove Village, Illinois, tragically died after taking an extra-strength Tylenol capsule. Later that same day, Adam Janus, a 27-year-old postal worker from Arlington Heights, suffered a fatal heart attack after taking Tylenol for chest pains. His brother and sister-in-law, visiting to mourn Adam, then ingested capsules from the very same bottle and also died. By October 1st, the death toll had escalated to 7, with victims primarily concentrated in the Chicago metropolitan area. Investigators quickly descended upon the crisis, which initially baffled authorities. Forensic analysis revealed a chilling truth. Extra-strength Tylenol capsules had been meticulously tampered with. Each deadly capsule had been opened, injected with highly toxic potassium cyanide, and then skillfully resealed in its original bottle. Crucially, the tampered bottles were traced to different production plants and several distinct pharmacies across the region. This pattern led law enforcement to a critical conclusion. The poisonings were not occurring at the manufacturing level, but rather on store shelves, suggesting a deliberate and localized act of malice. Despite extensive state and federal investigations involving the FBI and the FDA, the perpetrator or perpetrators of the Tylenol poisonings have never been definitively identified or prosecuted, leaving it as one of America's most enduring unsolved criminal mysteries. This unprecedented attack forced Johnson & Johnson to confront a crisis of unimaginable scale. Under the extraordinary leadership of CEO James Burke, Johnson & Johnson faced immense public pressure and a profound ethical dilemma. On October 5, 1982, in response to the tragic deaths of 7 Chicago-area residents linked to cyanide-laced Tylenol capsules, Burke made the unprecedented decision to initiate a nationwide recall of all Tylenol products. This meant pulling an estimated 31 million bottles, including both capsule and tablet forms, from shelves in over 200,000 retail outlets across the country. This wasn't just a monumental logistical challenge. It was an incredibly costly one, projected to exceed $100 million in lost sales and direct recall expenses. Despite not being at fault for the malicious tampering, J&J, under Burke's unwavering direction, prioritized public safety above all else, a commitment clearly articulated when he stated, "Our first responsibility is to the consumer." The company launched a transparent and proactive communication campaign, working hand-in-hand with the media, law enforcement, and regulatory bodies like the FDA, providing daily press conferences and clear instructions to consumers. This bold, swift, and ethically driven action, unparalleled at the time, began the painstaking process of rebuilding consumer trust, demonstrating a clear commitment to protecting lives over immediate profits. The aftermath of this crisis, and J&J's exemplary response, would forever redefine product safety standards and corporate crisis management best practices globally. Million bottles, a staggering investment estimated at over $100 million. This act, while costly, fundamentally reshaped consumer product safety, setting a new benchmark for corporate responsibility. The Tylenol crisis directly led to the universal adoption of tamper-evident packaging. Suddenly, products across the pharmaceutical and food industries, from pain relievers like Advil and aspirin to everyday items like yogurt cups and orange juice cartons, featured sealed caps, inductive foil barriers, and robust blister packs. This wasn't merely a corporate initiative. It became codified into law. In 1983, Congress, spurred by the public outcry and the proactive steps taken by companies like Johnson & Johnson, passed the Federal Anti-Tampering Act. This landmark legislation, signed into law by President Reagan, made it a federal crime to tamper with consumer products, carrying severe penalties of up to 10 years in prison and substantial fines. This act fundamentally changed how manufacturers approached product integrity, mandating rigorous quality control and security protocols from high-speed production lines to individual retail shelves, impacting an estimated 75,000 product lines. Consumers, too, developed new habits, meticulously scrutinizing packaging for any sign of compromise or alteration before purchase. This tragic event served as a stark lesson in corporate responsibility, demonstrating that a company's proactive, decisive response to an existential crisis could, in fact, define its future and set new industry standards. Even with such a decisive and costly action, many believed the Tylenol brand was doomed. Prior to the crisis, Tylenol commanded an astonishing 35% of the $1.2 billion painkiller market, but in the immediate aftermath, its share plummeted to a mere 7%. This was widely considered an extinction-level event for the brand, and for Johnson & Johnson's wider reputation. However, under CEO James Burke's continued leadership, J&J launched an aggressive and meticulously planned reintroduction strategy. The company heavily invested in new, triple-sealed tamper-evident packaging, a direct response to the crisis that quickly became the industry standard. They also committed substantial resources to marketing, including offering discounts and re-establishing direct communication with healthcare professionals, emphasizing Tylenol's new security features. This unwavering commitment to its corporate credo, prioritizing customers above all else, was frequently cited as a critical factor in their recovery. Against all expectations, Tylenol not only survived but, remarkably, regained over 80% of its pre-crisis market share within a year. Joseph Ricardo of Bayer, Stearns famously called this a miracle, noting the consensus on Madison Avenue had been that the brand would never recover. Tylenol's comeback became a pivotal case study in effective crisis management and ethical leadership, demonstrating that transparent communication and a clear commitment to consumer safety could indeed resurrect a brand from the brink of disaster. This video presents publicly documented information. It is for educational purposes, not legal advice. And now, from pain relievers like Advil and aspirin to everyday food items, all bear the direct influence of Johnson & Johnson's response to the Tylenol crisis. However, under CEO James Burke's decisive leadership, Johnson & Johnson launched an unprecedented marketing and public relations campaign. They introduced triple-sealed, tamper-evident packaging, accompanied by millions of dollars in coupons and a new pricing strategy. This strategic pivot, grounded in transparency and consumer safety, slowly rebuilt trust. Within a year, Tylenol's market share recovered significantly, and by 1986, it had climbed back to its pre-crisis dominance. This remains a singular case study in corporate crisis management, demonstrating how a company, facing an existential threat from external criminal acts, can not only survive but redefine industry standards through ethical action. It illustrates how an unwavering commitment to public safety, even at immense financial cost, ultimately became the foundation for the brand's resurrection. This entire episode prompts a critical question. When does the cost of doing the right thing outweigh potential financial ruin for a corporation? If you've ever witnessed a company navigate a similar crisis, or perhaps you remember the Tylenol scare firsthand, share your perspective in the comments below. Your insights help us explore the real-world implications of these landmark events. Subscribe to this channel for more deep dives into legal precedents and pivotal moments that have shaped our laws and industries. And if you're interested in another instance of corporate ethics under fire, watch my breakdown of the Ford Pinto case next, and how its design flaws led to a landmark product liability verdict. This video presents publicly documented information. It is for educational purposes, not legal advice.